Hi guys, welcome to a new video. In this video we'll be making this gypsy tear dress. If this is your vibe, keep watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be updated whenever I make a new post. Thank you. These are the materials we'll be needing for this. I have about 3.5 yards of this crepe fabric. It's stretchy but not so stretchy. I have my tape, my scissors, my pattern master and my marker. So the next thing we're going to do is just get right into it. Now, before we go ahead to cut this style, there are some basic things you have to put into consideration or try to understand. So I'll just be drawing the style, what it looks like and how we are going to navigate our way through it. This dress has about 3 tiers. The first one is a little bit short, with the second one that looks longer and about the same length or even a little bit longer than the last one. So this is going to be gathered, this point here is going to be gathered, and then this point here will be gathered. Now the next thing to get is the full length of this dress, which is about 60 inches. I want the full length of this dress to be 60 inches. Now after getting my full length, the next thing to do is to take my half length measurement, which is 16 inches. Now to get the lower part, if you go ahead and remove 16 inches from 60 inches, you'll be left with 44 inches. That is to say the bottom part of this whole dress will be 44 inches. So you're going to go ahead and divide this 44 inches into the 3 different tiers: tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3. Now from what I've drawn below, you'll notice that the tier 1 is shorter than the tier 2, which is about the same length as the tier 3. So this is what you are going to have in mind as you are trying to allocate the measurements for these 3 different tiers. Now it is important to know that this doesn't have any standard. It depends on how you want yours to be. You can decide to make the 3 tiers of equal length. You can choose to make tier 1 smaller than tier 2, tier 2 smaller than tier 3. However you want to go about yours, you can go about it. So now that we are clear on that, I'm going to go ahead and share these 3 tiers. I'm going to make tier 1 to be about 12 inches. Then I'm going to make the second tier to be 16 inches. I'll go ahead and make the third tier to also be 16 inches. Now if you sum all of this up, you're going to get 44 inches, and that's the full length of the lower part of this dress. So now that we have gotten the length of each of these tiers, the next thing we are going to do is to try and determine how wide the gaither is supposed to be, so that you will know exactly what you'll be cutting to make the gaithers for this. There's a standard to doing this, and that's multiplying wherever you are going to be gathering on by 1.5. So tier 1 is going to be my waist measurement, which is 28 inches, plus an allowance of 2 inches for the side, which is 30 inches, multiplied by 1.5. That is the standard. You can actually choose to make yours fuller if you want. So this means that the width, that's the wideness of this first tier, will be 45 inches. Guys, this is actually 45 inches. I made a mistake. So this brings us to 45 inches wideness and 12 inches length for the first tier. Now for the second tier, whatever you have as the wideness of the first tier, in this case 45 inches, you are still going to take it and multiply it by 1.5 to get the wideness or the width of the second tier. So this means that 1.5 is what is constant. It is like standard unless you want yours way fuller. So what I'm going to do now is to multiply 45 by 1.5 to get the width of the second tier. And this is going to bring me to 67.5 inches. So this is what I'll be measuring as the width of the second tier. That's the wideness with a length of 16 inches. So the second tier is going to have a width of 67.5 inches and a length of 16 inches. Now, since we are going to be attaching the third tier to the second tier, you're going to go ahead and take whatever you have as the width of the second tier, in this case 67.5, and multiply it by 1.5 to get the wideness of the third tier. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. So basically what I'm trying to say is that you multiply the width of the previous tier by 1.5 to get the one of the next step. So in this case, you're going to multiply 67.5 by 1.5, and you're going to be getting 107.25 as the width of the last tier, and also 16 inches as the length. So that's all basically for the 3 tiers of this dress, or rather the 3 gathered step for the bottom of this dress. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut 3 pieces of material. The first one will be 45 inches wide and 12 inches long. I'm going to add 1 extra inch for joining allowance. The second one will be 67.5 inches wide and about 17 inches long. The last one will be 107.25 inches wide and 18 inches long. And I'm going to set this aside and we're going to work on the upper part. Now for my upper part, I'm going ahead to cut out a piece that has my bust measurements, some allowances for both the front and the back. The difference between the front and the back is I added some allowance, about 1.5 to 2 inch allowance for my zip. The first thing I did was to really line that served as my starting point, which is also the shoulder line. Now I'm gonna head to mark my bust point, which is 10.5 inches, my under bust, which is 13.5, and then the full length for this half length, which is 17 inches. I'll go ahead to rule the lines just like you see me doing. Make sure they are straight. So here I'm just trying to label bust point, under bust, and then waistline. So for my back, I'm also labeling zip allowance. So that's my zip allowance. You can see I ruled the line to demarcate my zip allowance from the measurements. I'm going to get my chest line now, which is my bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. That's the easiest way to get your chest line. So I'm going to go ahead and rule a line there. I'm ruling the line on 2 points to make my line straight. I rule a line across, and this line is my chest line. So for my shoulder line, I've already taken half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5. I'm measuring the exact same thing and also marking that point on my chest line. Then I'm going to rule a line across to meet the shoulder line, just like you see me doing. The next step is to take my neck measurement, and for the width, remember you're going to be starting from the front and not from the allowance. For the width, I'm using 3 inches, and because I'm cutting the front and the back together, I'll make a point for the back first, which is 1 inch. I'm going to get my curve rule, and then I'm going to make a curve. So this is going to serve as my back neckline. This is my back neckline. I'm labeling back. Now for the front, I'm going to go down by 3 inches for the front also, and I'm also going to make a curve just like you see me doing. So this curve is going to serve as my front neckline. After getting my neck, the next thing is to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'm going to be connecting the line from the slope to the neckline, just like so, and I've gotten my shoulder slope. Now to get my armhole curve, I'm going to take the midpoint of this line here, and mine is 3.5 inch. I'll also go in by 0.5 inch. After doing that, on my chest line, I'm going to be inserting my bust circumference divided by 4, and that's what it gave me, 9.25 inch. I'm going to be adding a seam allowance of 1 inch. Then I'm going to be connecting the 3 points together with a curve, just like you see me doing, so like so, and I've gotten my armhole curve. Now the next step is to go to my waistline and take my waist circumference divided by 4. Whatever value you get, you insert it there. You add 1 extra inch for your dart because this dress is going to have a dart, and then I put 1 extra inch for my seam allowance. So just like so. I'll go ahead and connect this point to my chest line, just like this. Now for my zip allowance, just to try and reduce the zip bulge a little bit, I'm going to be going in by 0.5 inch on the waistline, and then I'm just going to be slanting it upwards, just like you see me doing, like so. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece out. So I'm going to be cutting for the back first. Don't forget the back neckline is different from the front before I cut out the front. So I'm just going to be tracing the lines like so. I like to notch the start of my zip allowance on the upper and the lower part. It makes it easy for me. So after cutting this part, I'm going to be separating the back from the front. This is the back. I'll set it aside and then I'll cut out the remainder of the neckline for the front. So the next thing to do is to take out my dart. Don't forget you left an allowance of 1 inch at the waistline for your dart intake. I'm going to be placing the dart for both the front and the back together. So just like so, I'm going to be going by 4 inches for my dart. If you're a beginner, you might want to manually put in your dart before you sew it, and to do that you're going to come down by half 1 inch from your bust point. You're going to connect the line to the 4 inch on your waistline. You're also going to go outside by half an inch from the 4 inch line. Just watch what I'm doing, and then you're going to be placing the line just like this. So this is exactly how you're going to be sewing it on your sewing machine. So after getting the dart leg, you want to notch that point where the dart starts from all sides. Our calculation, our first tier is supposed to be 12 inches. And see here we have 13 inches. I'm going to be using half inches to join this first tier to the bodice on top, and the remaining half inch to join into the second tier. So if you measure, I have 13 inches. I have 13 inches, and I also have 45 inches for the width. So according to what we have here, 30 times 1.5 is 45 inches. So this is the first tier. The second tier, remember the second tier is 45 times 1.5, which is 67.5 inches in width and 16 inches in length. Now I'm going to cut out 17 inches in width, in length, 68 inches in width. So this is for the second tier. For the third tier, I've gone ahead to do the same thing, but I added an extra inch to the third tier because I'm going to be hemming this. So the third tier is actually 18 inches. 18 inches in length. And for the width, I have 107.25 inches for the width. So after getting all of that, I'll set them aside and ready my upper bodice. So after taking in my dart leg, this is what it looks like for the back, and that's what it looks like for the front. So I'm going to go ahead and join them by 1 inch. Remember, that's what I took for my seam allowance, so 1 inch down. The first thing I like to do for the bottom part is to notch the middle point of all of my 3 tiers. What I'm basically going to do is to gather the third tier, that's the last one, the bottom part. You gather it to the bottom part of the second tier. So it's like a step-by-step process. You take the number 3, you gather the upper part. After gathering the upper part, you stitch it on the bottom part of the second tier. So you gather number 3, you fix it on the lower part of number 2, and you gather number 2 and fix it on the lower part of number 1. Go ahead and gather the number 3 and stitch it on the number 2 and show you what it looks like. So I've gone ahead to gather the third tier, that's the bottom one, and I've stitched it on the second tier, and this is what it looks like. I'm sorry, it's a little too wide and my camera was not capturing everything. So because this is the lower part, sorry, I've gone ahead to hem the bottom part just like you're seeing with the 1 inch allowance that I left. So this is how it looks. So that's tier number 3 and this is tier number 2. I've already gone ahead to do my loose stitch on the top part. The line you are seeing, that's my loose stitch. Use number 5 on your machine, and I'm just going to go ahead and gather it just like so. So after joining, that's the first tier, this is the second tier, and that's the third tier. The last step is to also run a gather stitch on the first tier. This first tier is actually the one you are going to be placing on the upper basic bodice. So I'm going to go ahead and gather it using my waist measurement. And the reason why you're going to be using your waist measurement is so it can fit properly, because that's the part that will be attached to your waist, just like you can see from the thumbnail. So this is me trying to gather it. So after I'm done with my gather, this is what it looks like. I'm going to get the midpoint and notch it. I've already done that, so that's the notch. You're going to notch the midpoint of your upper bodice also. After notching the midpoint, you're going to be placing them notch to notch, just like you see me doing. The part where you have notched for the middle of both of them. You can choose to pin this down. It will make it easier for you. But you're going to go ahead and go to your machine and join them with 1/2 inch. I actually pinned mine down so it will be easy, like really easy to work with. So after joining the upper and the lower part of this dress, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. What's left now is to use bias to turn my neckline and put in my zip. So after hemming the neckline and putting in a zipper, this is what it looks like for the neckline, and that's my zip behind. So I'm going to be doing the same for my arm. I'm going to be using a bias strip to turn in my arm, and that's all. Guys, I don't like to wear like a turtleneck or like a bishop collar, but if it is something you like, I might be able to film a video regarding that. But this is all for now. I'll be going ahead to turn the arm of this cloth, and then I'll be showing you what it looks like. So guys, this is the finished look. This is how it came out. I like the way it came out. Like I said, I don't like to wear a turtleneck. That's why I did mine without the turtleneck. But if you'd like to see a turtleneck or bishop collar tutorial from me, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you guys. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get updates whenever I make a new post.